Welcome back to the ESPNU Warrior Classic in Hartford, Connecticut. In the second game of this college lacrosse doubleheader, two Big East teams collide as Rutgers faces off against number 4 Syracuse. It's the Scarlet Knights and the Orange coming up next. This is the second annual ESPNU Warrior Classic. In Game 1 here in Hartford, Connecticut, the Hofstra Pride sent a message loud and clear. Game 2 coming up, number 4 Syracuse against Rutgers in a clash of Big East rivals. Hello and welcome back to Rentschler Field. I'm Eamon McEnany along with the All-American goalie out of Johns Hopkins, Quint Kesenick. And Quint, for the first time all season, Syracuse is not number 1 in a college lacrosse poll. And you read the papers and read the blogs, it's almost like they're 8-4 or 9-3. How would you describe the state of the Orange?
Well, high expectations. You lose to Cornell. This is an opportunity now to refocus. And talking to John Desko, they're going to make some subtle lineup changes, but what you hope to see is improvement from the Syracuse team, specifically on offense, where I think they have to turn it up a little in terms of their volume if they're going to win the ultimate.
A main area of concern for the Orange lately has been the face-offs, and Rutgers winning face-offs better than any team in the country right now.
Yeah, an upset for Rutgers starts with face-off domination, and they've been getting it done in that department all season long behind Chris Mattis. 114 face-off wins. He's number 1 in the nation in the category. 6'3", 200-pounder from Westfield, New Jersey. He's got power, he's got finesse, pinch and pop move, creates transition. For Syracuse, it's been all about Stephen Keogh, senior from Toronto, 20 career hat tricks. He's got 5 game-winning goals this season. What a weapon he is in the slot, moving his body, creating openings, filling gaps, and finishing from in tight.
145 career points. Let's take a look at our Warrior Impact players first. For the team from Piscataway, New Jersey.
Gaudy numbers for Madison, the face-off X, nearly 68%. Scott Klimchek, nice totals for a freshman, 32 points. And Duncan Clancy, terrific passer, 20 assists.
Now for the 11-1 Syracuse Orange.
Stephen Keogh, we talked about his goal-scoring abilities. Jojo Marasco, the time is now to emerge as a star on the national level. He'll wear number 22 today. And then Josh Amadon, senior midfielder, very hot right now.
He had 3 points in the win earlier this week at home over Hobart. Before we face it off, let's send it down to Paul Carcaterra down on the field, who's standing by with his former coach, John Desko.
Coach, recent contributions from some new faces, especially at the midfield, and Scott Loy and Bobby Eilers. How does this change the face of your team heading into May?
Well, we're really hoping these guys are starting to come on this time of year and going down the stretch here with the Big East games left and hopefully looking at the playoffs. These guys come alive. It's really going to help us.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
John Desko with a record of 158-45 at his alma mater. Rutgers is coached by Jim Stagnita in his 9th season with the Scarlet Knights, his 21st season overall as a college lacrosse coach.
Coming off of 5 straight losses, the last 3 by a goal. Heartbreaking. You talk about a thin margin of error. That's Rutgers this year. Need to improve shooting and goaltending. Doing everything else kind of on par, facing off extremely well, but those 2 key areas have, if you kind of do the math, it cost them 3 or 4 goals per game, and that's huge.
John Desko's club with wins over Providence and Hobart after being upset at home by Rob Pinnell and Cornell. John Lade did not really play in that game. He made the start, but was not much of a factor as he stepped out. He is supposed to be in the starting lineup in this one as we take a look at John Galloway, the winningest goalie in Division I NCAA men's lacrosse.
Galloway's won more games, and his save percentage is never going to jump off the page. It's something that I experienced as a senior. Opponents have been trying to stall against Syracuse. They're not going to throw him any easy 12 to 15-yard saves. They're only going to take high percentage shots. So the numbers don't tell the full story in terms of Galloway's excellence.
And for the Scarlet Knights, the sophomore Rudy Butler coming in off a 10-save performance against Princeton.
Only a sophomore, nice size, 6'2", from New Jersey. This is the challenge of all challenges. Anytime you're facing the Syracuse Orange, you're going to see shots, not a weak offensive weapon on the field.
Our officials today are Kevin O'Leary, Doug Donovan, and Michael Hinsey. Thompson, number 4 in white, will face it off against Mattis, number 22 in red. Syracuse leads this series 38-8. They have won 6 straight over Rutgers. And for the 4th time this season, Syracuse will play a game in a football stadium. Syracuse in white, Rutgers in red. We're underway, and Mattis, as advertised, right to himself right away. But the Scarlet Knights cannot take advantage of the possession. Good ground ball work, though, gets it back, and a whistle and a hold. So Syracuse will come up with it. This is Joel White, the All-American long stick midfielder, sending it back to McGill.
Mattis, as advertised, as you say, pops that one, pinch and pop, times the whistle well. You can't go this late into the season and be 68% and not be really, really good. I don't care who you're playing in this day and age.
Syracuse coming in just under 57%, but they don't have that one guy. Jeremy Thompson last year was that guy. They don't have that bell cow face-off guy who they can rely on. There is Thompson. Quinn, how about defensively? What do you expect from Rutgers? Multiple looks here in this one?
Yeah, they start out in a zone. Syracuse is seeing a lot of zones lately.
This is Tommy Palasek, 14. He's been inserted into the starting lineup with the injury on the knee to Tim Desko.
Quite honestly, if I was a defensive coordinator, I would play a man-to-man defense against Syracuse. I still think the Orange are lacking dodgers. They're going to figure out the zone eventually.
And that's what they did against Hobart. They figured it out and were so proficient in their execution that Hobart came out of the zone. Unsettled off the ground ball by Miller. Palasek, good defense there, and Butler makes the save. Way out of the crease, though, he comes up with the ground ball and sends it over to Fradkin for the clear.
It was Shemesh using the 6-foot-long defensive stick to get into the hands of the shooter. Really well done defensively.
Here is Duncan Clancy.
Nice job, Rudy. Yeah, Rudy.
So now Rutgers with its first true possession of the ball game. Quint, what's their game plan offensively? What's their sort of modus operandi with the ball?
I possess. I'm patient. I try to spread the Syracuse defense out.
Isn't everyone patient against Syracuse, it seems, this year in 2011?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Rutgers keys, face-off domination can trigger an upset, and then possess and convert. We've seen some near upsets of the Orange using that same strategy. Georgetown almost did it. Johns Hopkins almost did it. Villanova nearly pulled off the upset.
This is Klimchak drawing Kevin Drew, 19 on 19, feet up top. Time and room, they don't take the shot. Will Mangan didn't like the look, so he gives it up to Mike Deal. Deal's going to invert on Tim Harder. Midfielders normally attack above the cage. Now he's coming from behind the cage, trying to take advantage of the matchup. So there's our first stall warning of the game. Rutgers now has to keep it in the box. No shot clock in college lacrosse. So this is the attempt to prevent teams from slowing it down. They must now keep it in the box. Duncan Clancy being guarded by McGill, a New Jersey product. Runs through the pick. There's a shot. Not on cage.
I like it. The hard part for an offense when they're kind of in a slowdown mode is to still attack. You're patient, you're patient, you're patient. You pick your spots and you go.
That's what Dave Petramalo mentioned in his game. He said he thought maybe his players were too concerned with being patient and not concerned enough with attacking, and that double overtime loss up at the Carrier Dome.
Lull that defense to sleep.
So Mangan again now, looking like they want to isolate Harder behind the net.
Syracuse will zone it up behind Harder.
Mangan takes a shot and scores! Rutgers grabs the early lead thanks to the shot and goal by number 21, Will Mangan.
Coach Jim Sagnita's got to be real happy with the way his guys in red stuck with it on a really long possession, about a 3-minute possession. Harder just a little too soft on the defense. You see him get the initial cross check. That actually creates separation and the ability to free up his hands. Mangum just shoots around the defender. There's a Warrior Pro session that we've run this summer where Matt Danowski talks about that exact strategy. Create contact, bounce off, free up your hands, and shoot around your defender.
Thompson wins the face-off here, gets it to White, and gets it back. Jeremy Thompson, a first-round draft pick of the Hamilton Nationals, goes right down Asylum Street, but shoots high.
I said summer, I meant season, Eamon. We've been running it so much.
Hands free, shot by Marasco.
It's the early fire alarm.
Syracuse and the ESPN staff and the Hofstra Pride jolted out of bed early today in a local hotel. 5:30 a.m. fire alarm. Thought we were going to have line drills in the parking lot with both teams out there.
I wish I had taken a picture. It was great.
Here's Keogh moving it along. Ianzito with the duck under move. Can't put it on Cage.
Ianzito doing everything pretty well except shooting, only 14% right now.
So an early
Keep trying, it'll fall, young man.
So an early look at the second line, which has the local product Bobby Eilers out of Simsbury, number 30 out there. Here's Gilbert, a veteran, to go along with Ianzito at the midfield. Now Marasco all alone behind, has the defense hung up. Fradkin recovers, feed. Keogh makes the catch momentarily. Good check there by Nicholas Contino, a freshman who's been a starter upon his arrival to Piscataway. Let's check in with Paul Carcaterra down on the field. Paul?
Well, when Rutgers is on offense, it's obvious they're making a conscious effort to attack the short sticks of Syracuse and Kevin Drew and Tim Harder. So look for the midfielders to continue to invert. They're shouting it from the sidelines and the coaching staff, and the players well-trained in school getting in this base offense for Rutgers.
A failed clear by Rutgers. Marasco goes down. Keogh with the long shot, the save by Butler. He's got two. That's outside of Keogh's comfort range, but that still had some mustard on it.
Good save. This field is really firmed up a bit from our earlier game today. It rained all morning, absolutely poured.
Great ride by Palasek as he drives. Benjamin swing out of bounds.
If you're on the Rutgers sideline, you're lobbying for a push violation.
Let's talk about the surface, though, because talking to the coaches as we take a look at the hustle by Palasek.
That's a push.
That's a push with possession.
A blatant push from behind. Field an issue for Syracuse. This is their only grass game of the year.
Rutgers plays on grass at home at Yurcak Field. Coach Desko wanted to find a grass field in transit on the way from Syracuse to Hartford. It's been raining all weekend here in the Connecticut area. Stop now. Palasek looking to get inside. Good defense there. Now Miller. Looked like this offense had come alive in the win over Duke. Thompson loses it. Good defense by Will Mangan there. So Marasco in the orange looking to get going on the offensive end, but now they go back to the ride.
This seems to be the issue right here. Not easy for Rutgers to get out.
30 seconds once you start a possession, you have to clear it into your offensive box and go to work. There's the lob pass to Mangan, and he can't make the catch. McGill comes up with it, stays in bounds, and gets it ahead to Palasek. Transition opportunity for Miller in the orange. Now he's going to try to do it himself, and then gives it up to Palasek. 4 turnovers now for the Scarlet Knights. They're getting the stops on defense early, Quint.
Have to get their midfielders to step back and stay relative to the ball in the clear, and eventually someone's going to have to run past their man to clear it.
This one starting out with a familiar field of the one played last year in Piscataway.
Yeah, that was a slow first half. 2-0 Orange lead at the break last year, and one of the sloppier first halves we saw all last season.
Syracuse would go on to win that game 11-5 thanks to 6 points from Chris Daniello. Amadon can't handle the pass from Miller. 3rd turnover of the ball game. DiPolero picks up the ground ball. Does he sense White behind him? He does, and he gets it in the box. So now it should be interesting to see if Syracuse turns up the pressure on defense, or do they let the Scarlet Knights be patient and work the clock. Gill comes out on Clancy. How quickly do the officials give them a keep it in call? They'll let them get their personnel out there, and they'll probably wait till it goes behind again.
And that pressure decision will come from Leland Rogers, who in the first 5 or 10 minutes of this game is trying to get a sense for each of the matchups. Are we vulnerable anywhere? Who can turn up the heat and get out in someone's gloves and maybe generate a turnover? It takes a bit for a coach to feel comfortable that say, hey guys, let's go get the ball. Let's be really aggressive.
Leland Rogers, the defensive coordinator for the Orange. Mangan now being guarded by Guadagnolo. Like Guadagnolo was about to lose a stick. You see them coming out trying to shut off the ball, but they make the pass anyway to Matthew Klimchak. Let's send it down to Paul down on the field.
Well, one would think watching this offense right now that they're used to slowing it down. This is a Rutgers team that's outshot every opponent on the season other than Army. Their deficiency, though, it's been shooting. Their percentage right now for the season, an abysmal 22%.
Deal comes up with a tough ground ball there, and there's the warning to keep it in.
This is a Rutgers team, 5 wins on the year. But the teams they've beaten have a combined record of 12-45. Taking care of teams like Wagner, Manhattan, UMBC, St. Joe's, and Jacksonville.
They haven't played in a while. They were supposed to play Villanova. That game was postponed due to the rain, and there Mangan steps out of the box. So Lade back in the lineup, forces the turnover, pressuring the ball. Turnover 5 now for Coach Stagnita.
Very heady play by Lade. Knowing that the field is shrunk for the offense, presses out, pushes his man out of the box.
Syracuse scoreless for the first 10 minutes of this ball game, trailing 1-0.
I want the ball behind the cage.
Scott Lloyd out there with Palasek, Eilers, Ianzito, Keogh, and Marasco.
Rutgers will stay in the zone until Syracuse comes up with a formula to beat it.
They've seen zones almost exclusively. Palasek, tough pass, good collapse defense as Lloyd couldn't get a shot off. Pretty much since the Virginia game, they've seen zones. Georgetown forced overtime, and they've pretty much seen it in every game since. Mangan splits the defense, gives it up to Clancy. This is the second annual ESPNU Warrior Lacrosse Classic. Syracuse, the 4th-ranked team in the country with a record of 11-1, taking on Rutgers in a Big East affair. These two teams rivals before the inception of Big East Lacrosse, very familiar programs. Clancy behind, being guarded by Harder. Pickoff, White, this is what he does. Getting a step, gives it up. Palasek gets an angle, shoots. Can't put it on Cage. Joel White, the first defensive player to win the Midi of the Year award, shows off a little bit why there with the turnover and the instant offense. Rutgers takes a timeout. We'll step away from Rentschler Field. The number 4 team in the country, hoping they are getting closer to the edge of their first goal here, the second annual ESPNU Warrior Lacrosse Classic. A slow start here at Game 2. Syracuse trails Rutgers 1-0. Let's take a look at some headlines going on in Division I men's lacrosse around the country. ACC playing some huge games in the ACC tournament.
Comeback from Maryland, taking down North Carolina last night. And how about Duke? 7 goals in the second quarter. Virginia all of a sudden has lost 4 or 5. Tonight at 7 o'clock, big game in the Patriot League. Colgate and Bucknell for home field advantage in that tournament. And a new number 1, Eamon's Irish. Number 1, and we'll get to see them next Saturday night in the Dome.
First time ever a team Not on the East Coast is the #1 team in the country. We'll have more on that as we take a look at some scores from earlier action today. Speaking of the Big East, Villanova keeps its tournament hopes well alive with a comeback win.
That's a key score. And then Harvard beating Princeton.
Princeton's season now for the postseason on life support. They have to win out to get to 7-7 and get the Ivy League automatic qualifying bid. Cornell and Rob Pennell remains impressive. So Syracuse, after the timeout, has the first midfield group out there with Amadon, Miller, and Thompson. There's Palasek up top.
John Desko was telling us about how much time in practice they've spent working against zone defense.
Palasek, Miller open with time and room. The worm burner puts the Cuse on the board.
And he told us that by the end of the first quarter of the Hobart game, they figured it out. They diagnosed it, probed it enough so that they were getting great shots. This is a good shot against the zone defense. Strong left-handed blast. You'll see Jovan Miller wearing number 23. The adjacent double comes, catches, little hop step, and lets it go. A power shot from 15 yards. Zone busting, Jovan Miller.
He now has 11 goals on the season to go along with 10 assists. Nice balanced season for the senior out of CBA in Syracuse.
Yeah, and who can rip it from the outside? If you're an Orange fan, well, Josh Amadon can. Jovan Miller can. Question is, on that second midfield, can a guy like Eilers or Lloyd, can they beat a zone from outside? Because once you start proving that you can beat them from the perimeter, that things will really open up underneath.
So Mattis wins another faceoff to get the ball back to the Scarlet Knights. As you see Joe Moore, number 6, defend the ball right now. Let's check in with Paul down on the field.
Quent, you mentioned zone busting. After the quarter, Coach Desko mentioned a few of those things. Quick ball movement. The midfielders up top need to carry, get the defense to overcommit. When you have outside snipes like Jovan Miller's, that can break a defense down. We're seeing more and more zone defenses in college lacrosse this year. Zone busting has to be a flavor of the month from an offensive coordinator standpoint.
Yeah, Paul, you mentioned the key word there, getting the defense to overcommit. In that case, it was Palasek who pushed towards the gap, and he earned the respect of 2 defenders. That gave Miller the time to uncork the shot. I wrote an article about zone defenses last week. Got a lot of reaction from the coaches. It's a huge issue this year.
Another stall warning in effect right now for Rutgers. Well, how about this, Quinn? You know, you talk about college lacrosse and headlines. Syracuse and Virginia going to zones in home games in the same week.
You don't expect to see the athletic, rangy, tough defenses of the ACC having to use zone defenses. We've seen that this year.
Virginia undermanned at the defensive end with the season-ending shoulder surgery to Matt Lovejoy. Virginia on the skids right now.
Statistically, 3 best defenses in the nation: Hofstra, Notre Dame, and Johns Hopkins. Although I rate Notre Dame to have the best based on who they've played, and they are a strict man-to-man defense.
Here's Ian Zito. You mentioned the last goal being part of Palasek drawing the defenders. What do you think the biggest difference to have Palasek out there as opposed to Tim Desko? Desko hurt, having a big year. Here's a shot. Lloyd doesn't take it, makes the extra pass to Ian Zito. Ian Zito working hard to get his hands free, but loses it. The quick restart, Gilbert to Marasco. I didn't understand that call, and it burns Syracuse on the restart. Marasco takes advantage.
How about the heady play off the restart? That's why as a player, you can't be the ref. If you want to be aiming, you can ref it up here. But if you're the player and they blow that whistle for the restart, let's see if this is a push. I see nothing there. It doesn't matter. At this stage, drop the ball, find your man, check up. Because next thing you know, boom, off the restart, a tremendous pass down low to Marasco.
I think it was Jeff Gilbert, number 2, the senior.
Great look. Get that ball in your stick as quickly as possible. Turn to the official. Let him know you're ready for a whistle.
Coach Desko saying this week Gilbert brings a calming influence to the offense, especially on the extra man. So Mattis continues to do his job and get the ball for the team in red.
How good is this kid Mattis? Undrafted in Major League Lacrosse. He's a senior.
As the quarter comes to an end, a late flurry from Syracuse for John Desko, the number 4 team in the country, grabs the lead. We'll be back to Rentschler Field for the second quarter. Rutgers hanging tough with number 4. The fans in orange are happy with a 1-goal lead as we get ready for the second quarter. Let's take a quick look back at the first quarter. 3 goals and Rutgers broke through first.
Will Mangan isolating against the short stick. No slide comes. Good start by Rutgers using patience. Forcing some Syracuse turnovers early. Nice save. Rudy Butler's held his own, but finally the zone buster, Jovan Miller from Palasek. And then this phantom push call. Quick restart. I believe it's Gilbert picks up the ball, fires it down low to Marasco. So a really smart play by Gilbert on the restart.
And next Saturday, we will see the Syracuse Orange at home at the Carrier Dome as the number 4 team hosts number 1 in prime time Saturday night. Old Spice College Lacrosse from the Carrier Dome. And Quint, you think the Orange might be looking ahead just a bit here to the Irish at home in a showdown with number 1?
No. Syracuse is a big game team. I think the fact that Otto is getting warmed up in the Dome is enough to get the squad fired up.
Violation. White, the drop down to Marasco, saved by Butler. So the goalie and the face-off specialist keeping Rutgers in this one right now.
I mean, Syracuse is what they are. What they are. They are not as offensively explosive as they have been in years past. This team's going to win with defense, goaltending, being well coached. Two areas that they can improve were 2 of my keys today, and that would be the extra man unit, only clicking at 24% right now. Got to do better in that department.
That's been an Achilles heel all year. They're coming off 3 of 5 against Hobart.
Yeah, and then the second midfield production, and Paul addressed that with Coach Desko in the open. Getting some new faces in there, guys who may have not peaked yet this season.
Here's Duncan Clancy getting a shot off. Galloway makes the save. Loose ball. And Galloway comes up with it. A rare drop by Joel White, but he has plenty of real estate to come up with another ground ball. Maybe just wanted to pad his stats there. Now looking for an assist, but Drew makes the extra pass. Tic-tac-toe, the up and under, and the goal. Tommy Palasek with the finish, but that was a team play for Coach Desko.
Well, the numbers game worked to perfection. Starts with a save and an outlet. Rutgers runs off the field. Top side right of your screen, you see the midfielder head off. And Syracuse has a numbers game. They're underneath him. Nice little dip and dunk finish. Terrific passing, nice spacing, unselfish. One more, keep it hot lacrosse.
So after the violation, Mattis goes again, and he pops it forward. Comes up with the ground ball, gets popped by Daddio. But Rutgers will come up with the ground ball. Now McGill coming way out on the ball.
It's a pretty goal, that last goal. I mean,
that's lacrosse.
In this modern era of lacrosse, we're seeing fewer multiple pass goals. That was a thing of beauty.
Hofstra had a fast break like that earlier in game 1. Coaches spend so much time on the fast break, unsettled opportunities, because you don't get them very often. That's why you have to cash in on them when you do.
Ball moves faster than the man. Rutgers makes a strategic mistake by running off the field instead of getting back into the hole.
So now Rutgers down by 2. Here's Clancy. See there, Joe Moore trying to shut off the next pass, number 6. And then they can't handle it. So Klimchak can't handle the pass, and it's another turnover for the Scarlet Knights. Make that number 8 on the ball game. Galloway looking for the touchdown pass to White. Couldn't connect, but White comes up with it anyway. Gets a little too fancy on the flip, and we got a call here.
Should have been a play on. John Desko very happy that the whistle was blown there.
Stopped the transition opportunity. Well, I guess maybe there you could argue when Keogh made the hit, Rutgers did not have possession. Our officials here today, Kevin O'Leary, Doug Donovan, and Michael Hinsey. "12 minutes left in the first half. Rutgers looking for its second goal of the ball game. Mangan can't make the catch, excuse me. Hover can't make the catch. And Syracuse will look to clear.
All of a sudden, turnovers approaching double digits for the Scarlet Knights. Some forced, some unforced. Part of the deal when you're trying to attack Syracuse's defense, you throw that ball inside, expect to...
They're going to lay the lumber.
Yeah, expect to be greeted with some nice checks to your hands and wrists and arms.
Here's Amadon. Now Palasek. Miller being guarded by the short stick. Terranova on Miller. Miller, jump shot, and a goal. That is one of his many moves.
Tell you, Jovan Miller is a workaholic in terms of improving his game, and the leaps that he has shown from his freshman year to now, it's just amazing to see how he sets this up, change the direction, get to the middle of the field, straight overhand on the run, yank that ball opposite the way he is running. So he is running as the goalie is sliding with him. He pulls it back to the far side. Almost an impossible stop for the goaltender. Jovan Miller, nice start today with 2 goals.
Syracuse shooting has come alive after starting the game 0 of 7. They have connected on 4 of the last 5. Drew can't come up with the ground ball. Joel White has a beat on it, and he does. Comes up with it. Coming in, he had 256 career ground balls.
If you're Rutgers on that last goal, the second that Miller plants and dodges left-handed to the middle of the field, you've got to take away that inside shoulder or send the double team. You cannot let a midfield shooter of that ability get into the paint.
This is Colin Donahue, number 17, finding Marasco. That shot wrong side of the net. Donahue started his college career at Rutgers before transferring back to his home area, Syracuse. All right, Quentin, you're down 4-1. You wanted to be patient. They're pushing. They're not stalling. But what do you do now down 3 with the ball if you're Rutgers?
You're semi-patient, but you got to play lacrosse. The goal is not to get out of here and lose respectably.
One shot in the last 16 minutes of lacrosse for the team in red. Here's Klimchak being guarded by Harder. Now they get it to Deal, who goes to work on White. They shut off the pass. Good job by Kevin Drew to take away that next pass. So Clancy getting harassed by McGill.
McGill's a perfect number 2 defender.
So
Lade being your main premier number 1 guy. Guadagnolo's your 3. He's an off-ball guy.
Clean takeaway there by Harder, sending a message, hey, you want to invert me?
You know, every game I say, you know, maybe this is the game. You take harder, you can make something happen. And that kid digs in. He's a tough little defender at 5'9", 165.
Gives it back to Drew. That one hit the pipe. That one looked like we'd have another team goal as it went from White to Drew to Harder back to Drew.
Drew has 5 goals this year.
Had a big game against Hobart. Drew originally tried to play both basketball and lacrosse at Syracuse. A little tough to do.
His dad, a former SU hoopster.
His father, Bill.
Rutgers going to a man-to-man look. Nope, now they're switching to zone.
Eilers loses it. And Rutgers come up with the transition ground ball. Contino working hard. And they can't keep it in bounds. Oh, there's a flag.
Technical foul, 28 White. Push, 30 seconds.
So it's a push on Keogh. He doesn't like the call. A Mohawkless Stephen Keogh was sporting one of the most impressive dudes in Division I men's lacrosse earlier in the year, but I saw him this weekend. He said, hey, we lost. Mohawks got to go. You're upset about that, Quint. You're disappointed.
He'll have something for the NCAA tournament. I guarantee it.
Last year, Syracuse stunned in the first round in the NCAA tournament at home by Army.
For now, all we got is Jeremy Thompson with the ponytail.
And Rob Guida nationally, as we get sporting some serious flow for Johns Hopkins, who plays later tonight against Navy. But Rutgers on the extra man. Galloway robs them. They got the look they wanted, but the senior from Syracuse was up to the task for his first save of the ball game.
Turn quick, take away high. Match up stick on stick.
And Harder clears it. Under 7 minutes to play in the first half. Syracuse has scored 4 straight goals after falling behind 1-0 early. Let's check in with Paul Carcaterra down on the field.
Well, I had a chance to speak to senior Syracuse goalie John Galloway about that Cornell loss. He said the captains and seniors, including Keogh, got together and decided to change the way they practice. With only a few weeks left together, they decided to leave it out on the field every single day. He believes this mindset will change the way they play.
You know, Paul, it's interesting. Coach Desko thinks that maybe, just maybe, that might be a wake-up call, because last year they only lost once early in the regular season, went rolling into the NCAA tournament. Maybe they just let up a little bit against Army, and they weren't ready for that one-and-done intensity of the postseason. Nice backdoor cut and finish by Keogh.
Keogh from Thompson. Keogh likes to perch himself on that right wing. Sets a pick and then cuts to the net. When he sets the pick, he gains a step inside. He seals his defender, and then he turns to the inside, which gives him that step of separation.
We break down his career with our Sector Spiders player portfolio. 26 goals, 7 assists in his senior campaign. Coming into this game, he had 145 career points, 20 career hat tricks. 5 unanswered goals by the number 4 team in the country.
We've seen Keogh on that wing set picks like that all season long. If I'm covering Keogh and he goes to set a pick on the ball, I'm backing off of him and taking away the middle. I'm not getting caught up in that pick action. Just back off and know that if he pops and catches from the perimeter, that's not his range. He wants to suck you out and then cut the middle.
Rutgers won the faceoff, but now struggling on the clear. No one breaking open. Mengen facing a double team.
And back in the indoor days, it was always easy. Guys goes to set a pick, and you just grab him by the arm or grab his stick, and he doesn't go anywhere. They don't allow you to do that in the outdoor lacrosse version.
Is that in our rule book somewhere here? Not allowed to grab?
look, like basketball, you hear basketball coaches say all the time, deny cutters. It's the same in lacrosse. Put yourself, your stick in the way of the offensive cutter in a legal fashion.
This is Mike Deal being guarded by Joe Moore. Moore, a New Jersey native, played high school ball at West Windsor, Plainsboro in the Princeton area. Flag down, so Deal took it out of the box, and that draws the whistle.
6 white, the winner procedure, 2 men on the field, they're going to foul 30 seconds. 6 white, they're legal.
So a legal procedure call against John Desco's club. Gives the extra man opportunity for Rutgers. Too many players on the field. 6-on-6 once you cross midfield. With 3 players in the goalie behind on the other side. Opponents converting on just under 23% of their man-up opportunities against Syracuse. Rutgers missed out on its first opportunity of the night.
Ouch.
That draws another flag. And Deal stepped out of the box once again. So the All-American goes to the box, and the NFL Draft is this week, and ESPNU delivers the College Football Spring Blitz Draft Special Monday through Friday to provide viewers inside analysis and predictions from our experts. The College Football Spring Blitz Draft Special on ESPNU Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. Should be interesting to see where some graduates of Syracuse and Rutgers go. Devon Carter, the running back. Donald Hogue, the linebacker. Rutgers with a young football team. Doug Hogue. Pass inside, tough angle. They don't even get the shot off.
That was a huge opportunity for Rutgers. You're up 2 men for a couple seconds, then you're up a man still. And this is where Galloway will use his head. He'll milk as much of the 30 off the clearing clock as possible. And probably just, yeah, now they'll just run the safety.
It's harder. To Marasco.
Marasco's an inch away from being an elite player on the national level. A little too much dancing in this game right now.
Here's Harder, gets it back to Marasco.
It's almost like he beats guys and then does a second or third move and allows them to get back in the ball game.
It's kind of been the message from the coaching staff lately. One move and go.
That's a trend that too many high school players get away with, that at the college level, it's like a running back. It's one and boom, you got to go.
Marasco hustling on the ground ball, but Rutgers came up with it momentarily. But then throws it away. So speaking of the NFL draft, how about the MLL draft for Syracuse? 7 players going to play at the next level.
All of them's first name starts with the letter J except for Keogh. Joel White is going to be a star in that league. It's a league that's more transition. Jeremy Thompson, his versatility. Jovan Miller, they love the way he can play defense and offense. And I think Amadon may be a better pro player than he actually is in college.
Rochester Rattlers absolutely thrilled that John Galloway was still on the board with the 20th pick. So we'll step away with a timeout in the action. Syracuse up by 4 in Hartford. Welcome back to Hartford. Syracuse up 5-1 on Rutgers, and next week a special treat for lacrosse fans, an inside look at 2 top 10 programs and 2 of the most successful coaches in the history of the sport.
How's on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Throwing the move, catch on the move. Let's go. I know. Well, you know, Eric, he put his size 93 shoes in front. By then, he can't pass it anymore.
Now's your time to step up. Let's go. We have like 48 hours to figure this out. Hold on. Green. Green. Good. Green. All right. Good job, man. Good job.
ESPNU gives you an all-access pass next week into the Denver Pioneers and the Duke Blue Devils, part of a huge night for college lacrosse on ESPNU. That will be followed by the postseason. It's the tournament selection show on Sunday, May 8th, then the first round on campus on the 14th and 15th, the quarterfinals from Long Island and Boston, and the championship weekend from M&T Bank Stadium.
Tell you, that all-access show is going to be must-see TV. You got two guys, proven winners, great teachers, both have a tremendous sense of humors.
How about the camera crews picking great days, shorts and T-shirts? Where's the snow out in Denver?
It'll be a wonderful look behind the scenes of a Division I lacrosse program. One coming off a championship, one trying to get there first.
Coach Bill Tierney, I know he says the cupboard was full when he got there, and Jamie Monroe recruited some very good players, no doubt. But to have Denver ranked 5th in the country right now, that's impressive. Skip pass. Wins. Their only 2 losses are to Syracuse and Notre Dame.
This is an extra man formation by Syracuse. It's a 3-3 with a rotating triangle where they just replace against the zone defense.
So a quick second timeout here. Excuse me, Rutgers took the last timeout, so a quick timeout by John Desko here. So we'll see what he draws up when we return to the second annual ESPNU Warrior Classic. Back here at the ESPNU Warrior Classic, Syracuse with a 4-goal lead, looking to improve to 12-1, which would set the stage for next Saturday night. Inside the Carrier Dome, the #1 team in the country pays a visit to Central New York. Notre Dame on the road to take on #4 Syracuse. It should be a raucous atmosphere for college lacrosse inside the Dome. Face-off at 7 on ESPNU, and what a night of college lacrosse it'll be on the U. It starts with the showdown, #1 against #4, then the Sector Spiders Lacrosse Season Update Show, then inside Denver Lacrosse, all access to Duke Lacrosse, 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 lacrosse. You gotta love it.
Notre Dame and Syracuse. Syracuse should be #3, by the way. I don't know, the pollsters put them at #4. Need to check the schedule. Syracuse beat Johns Hopkins.
They think Kyle Wharton's goal should have counted, I guess. Clint, there's no other way.
I don't get it. Saturday night in the Dome. It's the last week of school for Syracuse. They have finals the following week.
So you're saying the students should make it out?
Students
put on the orange out. Marshall Street will be rocking.
No green or blue ties for you.
No.
Keep it neutral.
I'm asking to borrow a few Hopkins ties for you. Got any left from the playing days from the bus trips? So
no.
Back here in you've upgraded your tie selection since the playing days. Back here in East Hartford out of the timeout. Skip pass.
More zone from Rutgers.
Zito. Good closeout defense denying the shot, so he moves it along to Marasco. Here's Donahue.
Great zone players are thinking a step ahead on offense.
Marasco steps into one. Nice save. He's got 4. But Donahue comes up with the ground ball. Unsettled, can't find anybody. Keogh. Back to Marasco. Does he try it again?
Yeah,
no, that pass gets knocked down. Zito. Keogh doesn't look it into his stick, and it's a turnover.
It's the right idea. The right idea. Zito presses the corner, draws 2. That ball goes to Keogh, and Keogh's looking to the weak side. Skip pass, where the defense is vulnerable. Right idea, poor execution.
7 turnovers now for Syracuse. What a play by Marasco. He gets it to Donahue. Wow. The steal by Marasco. The alert pass makes it 6-1.
Roy Simmons Jr. told me when he went to evaluate high school attackmen, the one trait he wanted to find out, how do they ride? How do they try to break up the clear? Are they hustling? Are they always trying? And that's the biggest positive you can say about any attackman, is that they're trying on the ride. And Marasco gifted over the shoulder, Willie Mays-like catch.
Say hey, kid. So he's Willie Mays and 22. You're putting a lot of pressure on the young man from Somers, New York.
You got to love the effort. That's the type of play that gets guys on your bench going, that gets your defense going. You know, pretty boy attackman doing some dirty work. That's big. You know it. You know what that's big.
Absolutely, and it also conversely deflates the other team.
Well, Rutgers' clearing has been hard to watch.
Marasco wearing the legendary number 22 after wearing 1 last year, taking it on after Cody Jamison graduated. And with 22 seconds left, appropriately enough, there's a timeout in the action. 22 seconds away from the end of the first half, and coming up on the Warrior halftime report, highlights from around Division I lacrosse as Hofstra downs number 15 UMass and Loyola wins a key conference game. And we'll take a look at face-offs with Jeff Snyder on a Warrior Pro session. Jeff Snyder, of course, a key member of Team Canada. We're seeing two of the best face-off guys now in Division I lacrosse. So, Quint, let's look ahead to Selection Sunday. If it were tomorrow, who would be your 8 home teams in the first round?
This is as of today at about 3 o'clock. I think
Still don't have
Syracuse,
Hofstra
Notre Dame, Cornell, Hopkins, and Denver, if they run the table, and now even Duke, guaranteed to me to host first-round games. Then it gets pretty muddied after that. A team like Villanova, Virginia, Maryland, or Hofstra would be my teams vying for those 7th and 8th spots.
So the novice fan or the fan new to the sport tuning in today is going to see Villanova there and say, what do they have? What's on their resume? What do you think about that? Because Paul Carcaterra might have an issue with the Wildcats getting a home game. Paul?
Well, Villanova, a lot of lacrosse to still be played. We had a conversation yesterday about these last couple weeks of the season really dictating all of this. So the speculation at times can be a little bit early. The one team there's no way I see getting a top 8 seed is the University of Virginia Cavaliers. I think right now their defense, the wheels have completely fallen off the bus. They were lit up by Duke by 19 goals against. This defense is reeling, and I think the season might be done for the Cavs. They lost their senior captain, Matt Lovejoy, as well. He was the anchor of that unit.
5 seconds left. 4. That pass is knocked away. That all may be true, Paul.
Margin of victory doesn't matter.
Margin of victory doesn't matter, and they have a win over Cornell. That's a huge chip and a game left to play at Penn. So we'll resume that debate in the second half. We'll have plenty of talk about the tournament, but right now Syracuse goes into the locker room with a 5-goal lead on Big East rival Rutgers. This is the second annual ESPNU Warrior Classic. 6 straight goals to end the half by Syracuse. We're back with the second half from Hartford after this, but now let's go to Lowell Galindo in the studio for the Warrior halftime report. Welcome back to the Warrior halftime report. After 2 quarters of action, Syracuse in control with a 6-1 lead over Rutgers. Time now for a Warrior Pro session. Quint and Jeff Snyder break down the intricacies of the face-off.
This halftime report is presented by Warrior. All hail. And now, a Warrior Pro session with Quint Kesnick.
Face-offs make lacrosse unique. They follow every goal, and they are huge in determining possession and momentum. They can also lead to odd man rushes. Winning face-offs is part art form and part MMA. Bending the rules to gain an edge is the American way. Anticipate the whistle, but don't jump. Face-off men are known to be rugged, tenacious, crafty, and likely to steal your lunch money if you're not careful. We're joined by Jeff Snyder, Team Canada face-off specialist, Major League Lacrosse pro as well. And Jeff, what is a good starting point for young athletes as they want to win a face-off?
Approaching the face-off, I want to be fundamentally sound. I want to do everything the same way every time I face off so that I'm not giving my opponent any idea what I'm going to do next. I come down on the line, being as close to the line as possibly as I can so that I'm explosive and powerful when approaching the ball. That being said, I want to keep all my weight on my feet so I don't have any weight on my hands when I'm coming at the ball because I want to be as quick as possible and maintain that edge.
Balanced and powerful. What is your reaction to the whistle?
My initial reaction to the whistle, obviously trying to be a little bit ahead of it as much as I can, is to get that backhand forward. That puts my stick in the throat of my stick over top of the ball. Coming down, close to the line as possible, staying out of the neutral zone, weight on my feet, off of my hands, coming down on top of the ball, punching forward with my backhand is the fastest thing that I can do to win that faceoff.
And once you have it clamped, what are your options?
Options are coming out forward with some sort of a plunge, squeezing the sidewalls around the ball and taking an offensive stance, or popping the ball back through my legs to a wingman coming off of the line, picking up that ground ball.
It's awful easy when you don't have an opponent, and he's obviously trying to do the same thing that you are. What is the biggest challenge that you face?
Very similar to a fumble in football. When you see that pile-up take place, sort of anything goes when you're in there, and you got to do whatever it takes to win that ground ball for your team to obviously give your defense a rest and keep the ball in the hands of the offense. So whatever it takes in there, you got to be tough, you got to be scrappy, and be willing to do whatever you need to do to maintain that ball possession.
And that's what you have done. You've shown the ability to get possession for your team. What's a pro technique that you're known for?
One thing I like to do that's a little different from other guys is you see guys either come out in front of them or back between their legs. I like to take the ball and pop it out to my right, just because there's never really anybody in that area. They don't expect you to go that way. So I'll come down on top of the ball, pop it out behind me, pick it up, go out the opposite direction that they're expecting me to go.
Technique, timing, and toughness, the keys to facing off.
Welcome back to Game 2 of the ESPNU Warrior Classic from Rentschler Field in East Hartford, Connecticut. We are moments away from the start of the second half. Number 4, Syracuse, in command with a 5-goal lead over Rutgers. Welcome back to Hartford. Eamon McEnany along with Quint Kesenick. And Quint, Syracuse, if it knows how to do one thing right now, attack a zone. They're used to this right now.
Yeah, you know, I thought it was a good idea for Rutgers early, but it took about a half a quarter, 3/4 of the first quarter, and next thing you know, Syracuse is getting all sorts of good looks. Back to the drawing board if you're Rutgers. I think you got to go back to your man-to-man defense.
As we take a look at the first half highlights, blueprint executed by Rutgers to start, and then Syracuse takes control.
Well, they played good defense for the first 5 minutes. They possessed the ball. They get a high percentage shot by Will Mangum, and they score. Too bad it's been over 27 minutes since they scored their second goal. Jovan Miller zone busting from Palasek, and then a gorgeous transition goal. Tic-tac-toe, progressive passing, up the field. Palasek face dodge and the dip and dunk. That made it 3-1. Jovan Miller, his second 4-1. Keogh sets the pick, gets inside position as he cuts that far post. Thompson with the helper, 5-1. And then watch this ride. Great catch by Marasco. One-hander, share the rock. Donahue sticks it top shelf. 6-1 total domination by the Orange.
Take a look at the stats. Rutgers is winning the faceoffs, but the turnovers killing them on the other end. 0 for 3 on the extra man opportunities. Let's send it down to Paul Carcaterra before we start things off here in the second half.
Well, I had an opportunity to speak to both coaches. Coach Stagnita from Rutgers, they're going to stay in the zone defense. He wants his offense to be a lot more aggressive. Doesn't like the dancing around from the attack from behind. They need to get after it. Coach Desko mentioned to his squad they're going to stay in 2 base zone offenses. A lot of initiation from the midfield. Go after those outside shots when they can.
To end that second half, John Desko's club kept Rutgers scoreless for the last 26 minutes and 4 seconds.
Rutgers has 5 shots. Positive, they're getting some face-off wins. This kid's for real.
He goes to work against Thompson, wins it forward, comes up with it cleanly. So here at the ESPNU Warrior Lacrosse Classic, we have seen the players with the 2 best winning percentages in the country at face-offs, and both lived up to the billing so far.
Chris Mattis, 6'3", 200-pounder, senior for Rutgers, leading the country in face-off percentage, not drafted by Major League Lacrosse. Now, at the end of his senior season, his name will be thrown in the player pool, and he can be picked up during the waiver process. So if you're an MLL GM, a professional league GM right now, you want to get all over this kid. Very impressed.
And with the roster space in the MLL, can you carry a face-off specialist? Is that what that's?
Oh, they all carry at least one. You'd love to have 2. Maybe keep a guy on your practice squad.
We saw Jeff Snyder at halftime. Is he the standard bearer in MLL at the face-offs, or are there guys up there?
No, Alex Smith, I believe, is the standard bearer. Greg Gorenlian and Peter Vlahakis up on Long Island did a wonderful, they're a 1-2 combo. Kind of rare that a team would dress 2 face-off specialists. Jimmy Moulet had paid off. They made the championship game.
Jimmy Moulet feels that those guys get beaten up during a year, so you need 2 to keep them fresh by championship weekend.
Obviously, higher scoring games mean you need more guys to take draws. College season scores are low. You really don't need secondary and third faceoff option.
Here's Thompson through the substitution box. Rutgers waiting for him. Amidon gets his hands free. That shot got blocked, I think. Amidon's been quiet here today.
He's picked it up lately. He's really perked up in the last couple games. I asked John Desko. I said, what's Josh changed? What's he done differently? And it was a pretty interesting answer.
He's being able to practice more. He has a very interesting study. He's a children and family studies major. Works with children with disabilities in his hometown of Lafayette, New York, which is near Syracuse. So part of his senior studies with his majors, he has to go work with these children. And, it's in the afternoon. You can't change the time, so he hasn't been able to practice as much as he would like. But certainly a trail check there. Great thing he's doing with the children in his hometown, giving back to the community. Good hustle there by Marasco. And McGill comes up with it. JoJo wearing 22, but has shown a couple of times not afraid to do the dirty work. Drops it off to Thompson. Here's Palisek to Miller. Deal out on him.
Paul reporting that Rutgers will stay with his own defense. My question would be, does that give your team the best chance to win this ball game? Or maybe yes, right there with the turnover. Or does that make the score look closer than it could be if we played man?
Interesting, Coach Desko playing against the zone against Princeton got frustrated because he was given a stall warning a couple of times, and he thought the defense at some point has to come out and play the game as well.
Defense was not attacking or playing the ball behind the goal line extended.
Rutgers 6 of 12 on clears, 0 for its last 3. That's not going to help you make up a 5-goal deficit. See the official counting. 30 seconds to get it in to the box. They still haven't done it yet. Now they have. Guadagnolo all over the ball, and Matthew Klimchak. They're shutting off adjacent, letting their defenders go to work, and Guadagnolo with the takeaway. To Joel White in the open field. Here we go. And White puts on the brakes. Here's Palisek, gets it to Keogh. Drew steps down, moves it along to Ianzito. They'll now wait for Drew to come off and then White to come off. Ianzito moves it over to Eilers. Palisek feeds up top to Ianzito. Moves it along to Marasco. Now Ianzito to Eilers. Defense comes out on him. Skip pass to Keogh. Keogh steps down. Now it's Syracuse being patient. Palisek, that shot gets blocked. Shemish takes one for the team. And another failed clear by Rutgers, but they get it back. The NFL Draft is this week, and ESPNU delivers the College Football Spring Blitz Draft Special, Monday through Friday, to provide viewers inside analysis and predictions from our experts. The College Football Spring Blitz Draft Special on ESPNU, Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. Here in Hartford, you get a little bit of everything. Giant fans, Jet fans, mostly Patriot fans. Giants picking 19th, Jets 30th.
No Patriots fans here either?
No, I said Patriot fans. I threw that out there.
Scotty, you get inside. Kyle behind.
I just don't have my draft board memorized. I wasn't sure where the Patriots were picking. What? You got that down on your notes?
No. Coach Belichick.
I know they have a lot of picks, that's for sure. One thing after all those trades.
I'm guessing Coach Belichick is here today watching this ball game.
His son Steven on the Rutgers club, out for the year with an injury. Bill Belichick played his collegiate lacrosse in the state of Connecticut at Wesleyan. He's a very good player for Wesleyan after growing up in the Annapolis area. Loves the sport. Watched the Navy-Army game last week with Dave Petramala. Dave Petramala able to scout 2 future opponents at once there, and Bill Belichick was there with him. And then Johns Hopkins later that night pulled off a thrilling overtime victory over Maryland. So that's a good day of lacrosse for the football coach. Engen takes Moore way out. Loses him, draws the slide. And Syracuse recovers. That pass gets knocked down. Deal tries to come up with it. Loses the stick of Guadagnolo and then loses the ball. Lade collapses on him. Big hit there, big ground ball. Moore comes up with it and gets it back to Galloway. Galloway decides against the long pass to White. Now White gets open. White makes the catch. White still has it, but then what a flip to Marasco. Oh. Palasek put that one on the highlight reel. It started with Galloway. White working hard to get open. That was some play for Coach Desko.
That's how we draw it up.
The amazing thing from up here was watching White work hard to get open like a football wide receiver.
Galloway eyes downfield, way downfield, 50-yard pass, and then White gets himself in a tough situation, but the bailout flip, Marasco flip. Marasco put up nice totals today. Here's the touchdown pass. What is that, 20-yard line to the opposite 25. And as you look at the body control by Joel White.
Tommy Palasek having a big day now with 2-1. Marasco with 1-2. Let's check in with Paul down on the field.
Those types of passes, when you think of John Galloway's career, not a surprise if you've been watching the senior All-American. In my eyes, he does it better than anyone. He came in as a freshman. He was a great clearer. Now he's a ball stopper, a complete goaltender. But I think when it's all said and done, the best clearing goalie in college lacrosse history. My question to you, Quint, where do you rank him?
Well, it's hard to compare, to a guy like Jimmy Beardmore who would run the ball up the field, or even your brother whose clearing skills, to me, were a little more fun to watch. Outlet passing, Galloway probably the best, most aggressive and accurate that I have seen with both his right and left hand. But athlete out of the goal, no, not quite. Tommy Nims, better than Galloway. Your brother, Brian, better than Galloway. Jimmy Beardmore.
Drew gets robbed by a pipe again. Marasco picks it up. Nice save. Paul's brother played at Johns Hopkins for Coach Petramala. Beardmore.
University of Maryland, class of 87.
How about you, Quinn? Who was your guy? Who'd you look for in the open field you knew was going to get open and would catch the ball?
Number 43.
That's Dave Petramala. Was that because he was open or because he wanted the ball?
Both. Some guys call for the ball regardless of whether
you ignore it, right?
And you ignore it. But you always threw Dave the ball because you knew he was going to handle it.
A giveaway, another one by Rutgers. Deal picks it up, though. And Matt Harris there with another takeaway check to get it back for the team in white and orange. Matt Harris continuing to have a fine freshman year.
they'll shift him down to close defense. I was so impressed with what we saw from Harris last summer at the ESPN Rise games in Orlando. Chicago native, left side of your screen. He's a lefty. Coach Desko told us he checks hard. He brings the hammer. He's a strong kid. And you see him dislodge the ball and the stick.
And he knows that from his own players. They do not want to go up against him in college. That's the scouting report from practice. No one wants to go against him. Out of Chicago, wears 44 because of Stephen Brooks, was the guy he looked up to. He's telling us this week there was no chance he was going. He got recruited, but he knew where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to Syracuse and wear 44. Brooks, of course, out of the Chicago area as well.
Brooks picked up by the Chesapeake Bayhawks a couple weeks ago.
The lefty midfielder with a cannon on John Desko's back-to-back championship teams in 08.
You think about Syracuse with their, obviously being the national name in lacrosse, but the ability to go to the Midwest and pull kids out of Chicago. Now, in future years, will that Chicago athlete want to go to Michigan or want to go to Marquette? They're out there. Question is, will they want to come east or stay at home?
It's going to be interesting to see what the recruiting base is for those two new programs, Michigan and Marquette. Where they're going to get kids from. Joe Amplo, the Hofstra assistant coach, will be taking over the Marquette program. Michigan has a coach, Coach Paul.
John Paul.
They've been a dominant club team for the last few years. But that's a brand name. Again, it's worth repeating. A BCS football school has not added the sport of men's lacrosse since Notre Dame in 1981. That's astonishing, to be honest with you. So Syracuse with the extra man opportunity.
Like to see this unit start clicking at a higher percentage rate.
Here's Pete Coleman, 27, who had a good game against Hobart. Marasco. That pass gets knocked down as Amadon tried to put it inside.
Syracuse has never really run plays on extra man. They'll run sets, some planned movement.
Keogh can't put it on cage.
But they're free to create on the fly. This just doesn't look like it should yet.
Here's Coleman to Thompson.
Ranked 51st in the nation.
Skip pass to Palisek, gets through. That one hits the crossbar. That one had some juice. The third pipe hit by Syracuse in this ball game. What were you telling us, Quint? When it's followed by a groan, you know it wasn't a goal, right?
Yeah.
When it's followed by cheers, you know it's found a way into the back of the net. So here's Coleman out of Chatham, New Jersey. Palisek moves it along to Marasco. Coleman can't handle the pass. So the call goes against Syracuse, resulting in a turnover. Rutgers with just one shot in the last 16 minutes of this ball game as they try to clear it and get a good look on the offensive end.
Cuse defense coming into this game. 7 shutout quarters this season. They've shut Rutgers out in the second quarter to make 8, and they're looking at their 9th shutout quarter this year. Number 12 in goals against average.
20 turnovers now in this one for the Scarlet Knights. Just 6 shots. And Quint, we talked about Michigan, being a BCS school, adding the sport. Rutgers has had, a Division I lacrosse team for a while. As you take a look at the state of Rutgers, obviously it's the state school in New Jersey, which is getting better and better every year in high school lacrosse. How would you describe the state of lacrosse for Rutgers and what it needs to happen to become a top 20 team? As there's a goal inside by Amadon on the nice feed from Palasek. So Amadon gets in the box score.
Just a matter of time before Syracuse gets the feel for the zone. Where are the gaps? Where are the spaces? And freeze it right here. Amadon, keep your eye on this man right here. He's eventually going to cut left-handed towards the near post. Ball goes behind. He times it, cuts to space. Look how he's equidistant between the two defenders. And when he catches it, he's north of the goal line extended just enough so he has an angle. Too often young players will overcut there and catch the ball with no angle. So timing your cut and finding that open lane are the two teaching points.
Palasek now with 2 and 2. Palasek, a heralded recruit out of Rocky Point, New York on Long Island. Started his collegiate career at Johns Hopkins. Transferred to Syracuse this year and enrolled in January. Missed all of fall ball, wasn't in school, and there was some thought about redshirting him because he didn't really know the offense or the system or the players. But Quint, now with the injury to Tim Desco, it's been very beneficial that they had him eligible from the get-go this year.
Well, again, April is not about resting on your laurels. It's about finding new players. Every May we see young players emerge. We see freshmen hit the wall. You got to have depth when the temperature heats up and there's more important games on the line.
Galloway with the save there. Another long pass looking for Drew. Connection in stride. Drew has jets. Keogh can't handle the pass.
Galloway's upset at Keogh for not handling
He wanted the hockey assist. Whoa, oh, White with some trickeration. Hits the post. They're going for style points right now at the ESPNU Warrior Classic. Here is Donahue.
You brought up the state of this Rutgers program. I'm not sure all the fans know that, late in the 90s, Rutgers lacrosse program was hit by a compliance issue, and they lost some scholarships. And now they're finally fully funded again. This program, to me, should be ranked anywhere from 15 to 25 year after year. You can feed off of Central New York, Long Island, New Jersey, which is a really improving area, and the Baltimore, Washington area.
Lloyd doesn't look that one into a stick for the turnover with 15 seconds left. Next Saturday, it's the big showdown as two of the top teams in college lacrosse face off on ESPNU. Number 1 Notre Dame hits the road to take on number 4 Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. Old Spice College Lacrosse on ESPNU next Saturday, April 30th at 7 Eastern. The Irish keeping its unbeaten season alive earlier today with a win over Providence here in New England.
Great lacrosse fans in Central New York. Can't wait.
They'll be fired up for that one.
Dome Dogs and the best fans in the business.
Otto the Orange and the student section will be fired up to take on number 1 in its own building. Galloway to White, a couple of flips later. Palasek had another goal. It's all Syracuse right now. Syracuse moving closer to the edge of its 7th straight win over Rutgers as we take a look at our game track. Rutgers had a 1-0 lead early. Since then, it's been all Cuse.
Scarlet Knights held to only 7 total shots. This is a defensive performance as good as it gets, as good as we've seen all year.
And you can't blame Christopher Mattis, the face-off specialist. He's been doing his job. He's won 5 in a row. He's ready to go against number 1, Joe Daddio.
Cuse going with 2 poles on the wings, Harris and White.
And Mattis forward gets popped, and Joel White comes up with another ground ball.
I think Harris coming in up high there, just at the last minute, showed enough restraint.
White looking to get his hands free, but they take it away. They have a man. Mattis has a man if he can find him.
For as good as Joel White is in transition, there are times that he pushes it a little too much. Obviously with an 8-1 lead, no big deal. I like this. I like this, how Syracuse is trying to trap here with a double.
See him shutting off that next pass and letting the man go to work on the balls. They can't look in the pass.
Well, Rutgers is slow to substitute. Rutgers is doing this delayed sub. They only have 5 on the field, so everybody just shifts ball side.
Another ground ball for White. The long pass to Harder. Drew moves it along to Donahue.
Tell you, Drew, his offensive game has improved a ton this year. 5 goals, really sniffing out these transitional opportunities. One of the fastest players in the game. Great kid, team guy.
Out of John Jay Cross River High School in northern Westchester. Donahue will wait for Miller, and then Harder to come off to bring on Thompson. To go along out there with Amadon to complete the first midfield unit.
Rutgers down 7 goals, stays with the zone.
So Quint, let's look ahead to next week. Notre Dame has not looked impressive lately in their wins. Get no style points with close wins over Georgetown and St. John's.
Not impressive offensively. Defensively, right. They and Syracuse, you could argue the best 2 in the country. To me, it's going to be interesting because both offenses may be challenged to score goals next week. 2 great goalies. Face-offs will be huge. Both teams about the same, right?
Neither one with one of those Mattis or Antonides Fogo specials.
Exactly. Both teams senior laden in some key spots. Offenses, you got to think low scoring going into the game.
That draws a flag. What about the psychological aspects? Syracuse going to be able to paint itself as an underdog at home. Notre Dame maybe trying to live up to that number 1 ranking on the road.
Notre Dame would not be favored in that game.
No, I understand that. Well, no, the boys in the desert had it. Right.
Syracuse would be favored by a goal or a goal and a half. Now, Syracuse has got a lot to prove and a lot to play for. Low scoring, specialties could be big. The extra mans. I think a home field advantage in the Dome is worth at least a goal.
Earlier this year, about 14,000 fans were on hand for a Friday night showdown against Virginia. A Saturday night affair with the number 1 team in the country. Class is over. You think we get over 15 at the Dome?
I hope so. I think either way, you're playing for a top seed in the NCAA tournament. Winner, no doubt, is the top seed in the tournament. If Notre Dame then can back that up by beating North Carolina the following week.
Syracuse would have a game left with St. John's, who gave Villanova all it could handle today, but the Wildcats avoid the loss and come back to win that 11-9. Paul, you've played at the Carrier Dome. What atmosphere are you expecting? What are you expecting on the field next week?
I think a bigger crowd now that Syracuse has a loss, and the underdog, obviously, a label that they can capture heading into that Saturday night affair. The thing that's interesting to me, on paper, you'd think that Notre Dame has the edge with guys like Brenneman and Earl, but their numbers are pedestrian this year. David Earl only 10 goals on the season. Zach Brenneman only 9, a first-team All-American in the preseason. So my question to you, you think if the attacks are going to be stymied by these 2 defense boys up in the booth, who do you give the edge to at the midfield?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the Notre Dame attack. Last year, that was sort of the Achilles heel, or they came along for the ride. They didn't really contribute much. This year, they're putting up numbers, but you haven't seen it yet. Colin Igo, Beattie, Westy Hopkins, Sean Rogers. Do you think one of those guys can beat Lade, McGill, or Guadagnolo? I have a hard time, either team, as you mentioned, 6-on-6, creating a scoring opportunity.
Right, and so then face-offs are huge. Possession time can lead to penalties and man-up opportunities. I see Syracuse as a 1 or 1.5 goal favorite. The other thing to me working against Notre Dame, I'm not sure they've played the most athletic teams lately. I think you got to go back to, who's the most athletic team they've played?
Well, the most athletic team they played is Duke, and that was in February, and Duke wasn't even really set. I don't want to take anything away. Notre Dame dominated them in the second half and won that game.
Bigger, faster, stronger standpoint, this will be a little different for this Notre Dame team. They'll be ready. They've been in these games before. But having come off games against Providence, St. John's, Georgetown, Villanova, Rutgers, Ohio State,
Georgetown's pretty athletic. Barney Ehrman and Hostetler and Boyle.
But they're not Syracuse, big, strong, and fast. And Notre Dame's going to try to control the ball.
Coleman wanted to rip it. Syracuse has a 6-on-4 opportunity, and Marasco will gladly finish. It'll
be interesting to see how the Syracuse offense attacks Notre Dame's near man, slide early, fake slides. Because at the end of the day, I think the Syracuse offense is better geared to attack a zone than it is to attack a premier man-to-man defense. Marasco's looked really good today. Was wondering about his health a couple weeks ago. He's 100%. He's got that burst in his step. Look at the footwork. The eyes, hands, and feet tell the story of a successful attackman. Very patient from the inside. This is the best I've seen him look this year.
He has 4 points. Palasek has 5 with 2 and 3. We have a new face-off man out there for Syracuse. Drew Jenkins gets a look. Let's send it back down to Paul Carcaterra.
Had an opportunity to speak to JoJo Marasco this week, and the pressure of 22. It's a huge spotlight wearing that legendary number up at the Carrier Dome. He's handling it pretty well. When you think about statistically not having a monster season, but he's embracing the opportunity to lead this team, he told me, into May and to capture another national championship. He's looking at the rest of this season almost as like season 2, where he can prove the doubters wrong and be an elite player like you mentioned, Quint.
Quint loves hearing about the doubters as Marasco tries to go for the skip pass.
You know, you put on that 22 jersey and it comes with ankle weights, 2.5-pound ankle weights, I guess. What is that jersey padded with weight?
Well, I mean, Dan Hardy had a hard time living up to it in the beginning of his career, and he ended up with a great career.
Don't give it to guys who aren't ready for it.
Well, I mean, last year they didn't. They gave it to Cody Jamieson. So they certainly was some buzz about JoJo making the trip north from Westchester to Syracuse, following the steps of guys like Colsey and Carcaterra. And he's starting to break out. So there's a timeout in the action. We'll step away as well. Syracuse up by 8. Happens in the postseason. It'll happen on the ESPN networks, and it starts with the selection show on Sunday night, May 8th. And then the first round the next week on campus, the quarterfinals from Long Island and Foxborough, and then championship weekend from downtown Baltimore. Every game live and in high definition on the ESPN networks.
Think about 3 weekends where you get total action, Saturday, Sunday, wall to wall. Started off on Sunday night, 9 o'clock selection show.
Keogh gets checked there, and this year quarterfinals going to feel like a Final Four because there's no clear-cut top teams. I think that's fair to say. Their teams are so close. Maryland could be a 7 or 8 seed and could be the most talented team in the country. Or Virginia, if they get it going and right the ship.
We mentioned it earlier, the RPI scheduled to be released on Monday by the NCAA, and that'll change between now and May 8th. It's based on a 10-game sample. So that changes when a team plays in a conference tournament. 16 teams make the NCAA tournament, 6 AQs, 10 at-larges, and the RPI is a big factor in the at-large selection.
Who's the power school, the brand name that's in the most trouble, that's walking on eggshells right now, that really needs something good to break their way?
Good question.
Is it North Carolina with a game left against Notre Dame?
No, I don't think so. I think the big question to me is which of the leagues is going to get 2 or 3 teams in? You know, Ivy League Team 2, CAA 2, Patriot League 2, or Big East 3, team like Villanova. Where's the spillover? And if there are upsets, does a team like Stony Brook even make the tournament if they don't get the AQ?
If they don't get the AQ. Probably not. They don't have a win. They don't have a resume
like Hofstra get in the tournament without the AQ? Does a team like Army make the tournament without the AQ?
Army's got a huge chip that no one else has with a win over Cornell. As Cornell continues to play well and move up the rankings, that's going to be a huge chip for Joe Alberici.
Does Denver? Where do you put Denver?
Denver gets a home
Denver's
game.
in.
Denver's in.
But what if they lose in the ECAC tournament?
If that becomes a 2-team league, some guys at North Carolina sweating it out. The North Carolinas of the world are sweating it out.
Loyola upsets Denver, let's say. Denver doesn't get the AQ. They get in. That bumps somebody else out.
Right.
So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
If Denver wins out, that's a 1-team league, wouldn't you think?
Yes, definitely. Unless Loyola upsets Johns Hopkins. Loyola still gets to play Johns Hopkins, which would be a quality win.
Clark, what do you think?
No way Army gets in without the AQ. I mean, when you look at it, yeah, you can hang your hat on that Cornell win, but you cannot get in the tournament on one big-time quality win.
I don't know. A lot of Georgetown fans would tell you Notre Dame got in last year with one
guess who Army
win.
still has to play, gentlemen?
Well, yeah,
they finished up the season with the Johns Hopkins team. They get a win there.
They have to, well, that's a big if.
They're in the mix.
Now we're speculating.
Yeah, now we're changing the resume.
They still have good games on their schedule. This time of the season, it's almost like you want to be playing tough games.
No, absolutely, which is why the ACC plays its tournament, to get those RPI games back up there. But Paul, at the end of the day, you got to get 16 teams out there, and their win. Carolina doesn't have a win like a win over Cornell. As there's a goal there by Palasek. A career day for Tommy Palasek. 3-3, 6 points for the transfer.
Palasek and Desko don't have to worry about whether they're going to host. They will be a top 8 seed and play a home game in the Carrier Dome, most likely on Sunday, May 15th after graduation in the Dome.
We'll continue to speculate, most likely maybe against the MAC champion, unless it's Detroit. Geography plays a role. The intricacies of the tournament. It's 1 through 8 are seeded, and then after that it is not seeded. Geography plays a major role, which will play again a major role this year with 2 flights almost guaranteed with games at Denver and Notre Dame. So, Paul, if you're saying Army needs to win the AQ, who do you think is safe? Is Carolina safe, or do the Tar Heels need to beat Notre Dame?
I think Carolina is in a little bit better situation. You gotta look at it from this standpoint. If Army loses in their Patriot League tournament, they'll have 5 losses. If they lose to Johns Hopkins, that's 6 losses on their schedule with 1 real quality win. So, I mean, how do you get them into the tournament?
Well, it's
without
not
the AQ?
about losses. Losses
Wins are
nothing
bigger than
to do with
losses.
it.
I mean, last year, you look back at Notre Dame's resume last year with losses to Fairfield, Rutgers, and Villanova at the time last year. And they still had that big chip of the early win over Duke, and it got them in the tournament over teams such as Georgetown, who had beaten them.
But Paul, I do agree with you, but losses don't mean anything. Our Army has a Cornell win. That in itself might not be enough.
Might not.
Depends on their RPI and their SOS, strength of schedule. But
so if losses don't mean anything, wins obviously do. I just
Correct.
don't think you can hang your hat on one big-time win.
So what's Carolina hanging its hat on? Penn? And the win over Maryland?
Penn legitimately can crash the Ivy party. I mean, they've had a quality season. They beat Duke this season as well. Penn's not too under the radar right now when you think about it.
Back here at Rentschler Field, Syracuse makes a switch in the cage as Galloway's night is done. Well, that's the other thing, Paul. You bring up a great point. What your opponents do the rest of the year plays a huge role, because last year, Delaware winning the CAA tournament helped out Johns Hopkins immensely.
Last year, Hofstra not in the CAA tournament. And late in the year, next thing you know, everyone that they had wins over, Army and Hopkins win. Also, Notre Dame last year wouldn't have made a Big East tournament if there were such a thing.
You're
they
absolutely
benefited
correct.
late in the year. This is right now. This was done earlier this morning, truthfully, before today's results. I think it's pretty solid until number 6 or 7, and then from there, there's going to be a lot of changes. A team like Maryland, if they beat Duke tomorrow, is in the mix.
What stands out to you about Villanova's resume that you have them at 7? What's their big thing? Princeton?
High RPI.
That's a nice play. Pass and a goal. Donahue from Ward. Number 17 has 2.
Rutgers still in the zone. Backside cut, ball watching defenders. Fill the space and finish. We were talking about Villanova. Wins over Drexel, Penn State, Penn's
the big one.
Princeton, Delaware, which we don't know what kind of value is that. Nova losses to Bucknell, Notre Dame, and Syracuse.
And Bucknell could win the Patriot League, which
Still
would make that
very much to be determined. Are there wins there?
And they finish up with St. John's. They beat St. John's today.
The Big East will all benefit from a strong RPI
from
having
Syracuse
Notre
and
Dame. Correct. Meanwhile, the ACC, in my opinion, vastly overrated, especially late in the season. When you look at the league,
they don't have
as a whole,
wins.
out of conference, the league as a whole, all 4 teams, other than each other, they've only beaten one top 10 team all year.
And that's Virginia over Cornell.
Virginia beating
at
Cornell.
The Face-Off Classic.
Virginia's beaten Cornell, Stony Brook, Drexel. North Carolina's beaten Penn and Princeton.
Those are Carolina's
Maryland's beaten Georgetown and Navy.
Duke doesn't really have a great win out of
Loyola,
conference.
that's it.
They beat Georgetown. That's not going to do
As
anything.
a league, you got one top 10 win, other than each other.
Clark, what do you think of the ACC this year?
I agree with Quint. You know, I think it is a little bit overrated out of conference. They don't have a body of work. The team I'm really excited to watch play in the tournament is Denver. I think the Pioneers, you look at their 2 losses, a 1-goal loss against Notre Dame, and they played Syracuse in the Carrier Dome in February. This is a team that beat the hottest team in the nation in Duke. Very anxious to see what they're like come tournament time.
Paul, I want to get your opinion on Hofstra. You know, having seen them in the hotel this weekend, a little on the smallish side compared to some of the ACC and the Syracuse and Notre Dames that we've seen. What were they like from field level today?
Field level, they were fast, they were efficient. Their shooters, too, are 2 of the best in the nation when you think of Jay Card and Jamie Lincoln on the wings. And, you know, Coach Seth Tierney told me they were doing some new things, some new patterns offensively to get these guys going. So I think this is a team that's not overly big, like you said. I wasn't impressed with their size, but they showed some speed as well.
Matt Lerman in the cage right now for Syracuse. As we take a look, these would, if the season ended today, many of these leagues have tournaments to decide it, but right now, these would be your automatic bids. And if it's Detroit out of the MAC, then they would go to South Bend most likely, unless Notre Dame loses its last 2 games.
Yeah, the only 2 teams on the right side who are in it as at-large really guarantees would be probably Denver and Cornell. Everybody else still has a lot of work to do.
Could you get 3 out of the Patriot League? Probably not.
Well, if Colgate beats Maryland in the last game of the season, maybe, and Army beat Hopkins, you never know.
That is one of the unique things about the schedule. The ACC ramps it up, plays its tournament, and then still goes out of conference. Sometimes they're automatic wins, but this year there's some key games. Virginia at Penn's going to be a huge game. Yeah. Colgate at Maryland's going to be a big game because Colgate's a top 20 program.
And always tough for those ACC schools to decompress after the ACC rematches this weekend.
Back to football. The NFL Draft is this week, and ESPNU delivers the College Football Spring Blitz Draft Special Monday through Friday to provide viewers inside analysis and predictions from our experts. The College Football Spring Blitz Draft Special on ESPNU Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. So how about that Friday night in May? Notre Dame at North Carolina. Is that a win and get in game for the Tar Heels? What a shot! A sting and a rip for Rutgers. Corey Kelly.
Tell you, Kelly's the big lefty. With the howitzer from the outside, his kid's been battling injuries all year. Really hobbled, right knee injury, but he can rip it. Paints the corner from 15. Sweet music if you're Corey Kelly and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
So that ends the drought. Kelly showing off that ability that made him a heavily recruited player out of New Jersey as Clancy gets the assist. Had some knee issues at the end of his high school career and start of his collegiate career, so has yet to really be 100% for the Scarlet Knights. That ends the 11-0 run by Syracuse, as Rutgers at one point in this ball game had a 1-0 lead. David Hamlin, number 31, out there on the defensive end for Syracuse. Kevin Hover with it for Rutgers. This is Swing moving it along. Rutgers has backup on the high shot.
Second line defense for Syracuse. Important for these young athletes to play well here. You've got to build trust. The coaching staff has to trust you. And you're earning that trust right now by playing well here in this final 2 minutes.
Kyle Carey will get called for the penalty and go to the box.
It's all about taking small steps when you're a backup player. Whether it's midi, defense, attack, whatever your position. You earn some playing time in practice. You get the opportunity in the game. Take advantage of it, regardless of the score or time in the game. And your coaching staff, Leland Rogers and Coach Desko right there, evaluating here on the fly. An injury happens, you'll be that next guy. You'll get a chance. Or your performance, you'll pass the starter.
And the other thing is, he's been honest with us all year. He's looking ahead to next year. He knows that, he has 7 players graduating going on in the MLL. He's going to need some guys ready to play next year. So Rutgers with the extra man. Step down, shot blocked. Joe Moore took one for the team there. Nice hit. Nice save by Lehrman. He has 2.
Good save by Lehrman. Always tough coming in off the bench. He and Ben Levy are Galloway's backups, and they'll battle for the top spot.
He's out of the Philadelphia area that's producing some good goalies right now in Division I lacrosse. Dan Wigreiser down at Duke. Nico Amato at Maryland in the ACC. Out of the main line, the Interact League. Here's Ward losing his man. Getting a step, coming around goal line extended, and buries it.
Goalie Joe Donnelly and his Ward, the freshman, got to meet him last summer at the ESPN Rise games down in Orlando. Kid's a grinder, a worker, smart player, not going to blow you away off the bus with his size or his speed, but he knows how to play. He can play without the ball. Love the high fake. Donnelly takes that step, and next thing you know, that space between the legs opens up.
Makes it 12-2. As Syracuse will improve to 12-1. The Orange have to keep it in to run out the clock. And that will do it. John Desko's club gave up 1 early and 1 late. And between that, it was all Syracuse as the Orange improved to 12-1 and now gear up to host number 1 Notre Dame at the Carrier Dome next Saturday night right here on ESPNU.
Really impressive defensive performance by Syracuse, standing there man-to-man, dominating Rutgers. John Galloway, when called upon, made some good stops in his typical great outlet passes. Slow starting offense against the zone, but once they figured it out, it was good. I thought Jojo Marasco and Palasek, Tommy Palasek, were about as good as we've seen them this year.
As we take a look back at the performance from number 14, 6 points for the transfer from Johns Hopkins. Doing it in a variety of ways.
That's an easy point right there. Nice fake from the wing. Look at him get to the middle of the field.
He is our Dick's Sporting Goods player of the game, a 6-point effort, 3-3, and he's standing by with Paul Carcaterra.
Tommy Palasek, 3 goals, 3 assists, career high in terms of overall points. Starting to feel more of an offensive quarterback position back there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we got some injuries right now, obviously, with Timmy out. So I'm just trying to play the role that I'm supposed to. You know, Coach has standards, and it doesn't matter who's out there. He hopes that we're going to fulfill those standards.
You look at this offense since that 6-goal loss against Cornell. What has changed offensively? You're putting up some numbers the last few games.
You know, I don't think much has changed. You know, came out, we were kind of sloppy against Cornell. The strength of our team is that we're able to forget it pretty quickly and move on and just keep going in practice every day, trying to be sharper each day in practice.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, Paul, so now we shift the spotlight to the Carrier Dome. Give us a look ahead, Quint. What's the line?
Next week, they will play for the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. The Orange will host Notre Dame. Defense, defense, defense. It's going to be fun to watch.
Once again, our final score here, Game 2 of the ESPNU Warrior Classic. Syracuse wins it by 10, 12-2. Coming up next, Sports Center U. That will be followed by Navy against number 2 Johns Hopkins from Homewood. This has been a presentation of ESPN. the worldwide leader in sports. Syracuse improves to 12-1. Now let's send it to Lolo Galindo in the studio.